Hey, this is Dale Atkins, and I'm coming to the Extraordinary Bass Players Show. So please join us. We're going to have fun. We're going to talk about a little bit of my history and things about how to make it in this industry if you choose to. Thanks a lot. We'll see you there.
Well, welcome back to the Extraordinary Bass Player Show. As you know, I'm your host, Sharon Moore. I always say today. Well, family, I can say it this way. We finally got him on the show. I've been wanting this guy on the show for a long time. You all know him. He's well known around the world, around the country. He's a producer, he's a composer, he's a musical director. Later, I'm going to ask him, does he also teach and do clinics and things of such later on? We'll talk about that. Will you help me welcome my dear friend and a fine bassist he is, Dale Atkins. Hey, Dale.
Go get him, champ. Go get him, champ.
Hey, man,
Hey, how
welcome
you
to
doing?
the,
Thanks for having,
I was going to
thanks
say,
for having
welcome to the
me on this.
extraordinary, huh?
No, I was saying thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Welcome. It's our delight, man. It's our delight. Let me go back and do some of the history stuff. You're originally from LA?
Yes, born and raised in LA.
Shoo. I'm gonna stay there for a little while. But how old were you when you first saw some snow?
Oh, I was a teenager. It was the first time I seen snow. We were driving back to Oklahoma, my father's home, and we had to get out the car so I could touch this snow.
He was a teenager.
Yeah.
Tell me, Dale, how did you gravitate to bass? How did you get started playing bass? Did you come from a musical family or something?
Yeah, actually, music was in my family. My mother was a pianist, a church pianist. She started at the age of 12 years old. And the story I got from my grandmother was that they were from Louisiana, and she was playing in churches, making more money than my grandmother was cleaning houses. So it was something that she did, in her younger life. And I was always inspired by watching this lady, my mother, play the piano. I thought that was an amazing thing, but I didn't actually pick up an instrument until 14 or 15 years old.
Why so late in picking up an instrument?
Well, in the early part of my life, I was experimenting with other things. I played Little League Baseball until the last part of middle school, which was back in the day. Our junior high or middle school went from seventh to ninth grade. And at that time, it was in the 70s, and the big groups were Larry Graham and the Brothers Johnson, and the bass was an exciting out front instrument. It wasn't just in the back. People were coming out front, and it was exciting. And some of the guys in the neighborhood said, let's start a band. I seen that first bass in a pawn shop around the corner to from my house, and my grandmother paid for it. It was $74, and I was eyeballing that bass for quite a while, and then they got it for me. Then I was lucky enough to go to a high school that Reggie Andrews was teaching at. This was Fremont High School at the time. Now, Reggie was responsible for Ndugu Chancellor, Patrice Rush, and Gerald Albright, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Horns, and many other great musicians. So I just luckily ran into him, and I had just started playing, and I had gotten the band. So he was at Fremont at that time. He was there 1 year when I was there, and then he left to go back to Locke High School. So it's amazing how God works, where I was just in the right place at the right time. It was during the summer, and some friends of mine were rehearsing at Locke with the marching band. So I went up there, and Andy Cleaves, a trumpet player friend of mine who's in the real estate now, he said, "Look, Reggie Andrews is leaving Fremont and he's checking everybody out who wants to go to Locke with him." And so I jumped in the car with Andy and says, "I'm going. If the music is going over there, I'm going there too." I hadn't talked to my parents or anything. I just knew that I liked this music thing and I was going to follow the instructions. So I was there. Reggie was getting us open permit transfers where you sign to go to another school outside of your home school. So I said, "Well, I hadn't talked to my parents or anything about changing schools." He said, "Don't worry about it. I'll talk to your parents." And me and 15 other students went over there, and my musical education went on from there, learning to read, write, and play all styles of music, and then leaving there, going on to LACC.
Before we get to LACC, who are some of your influences as a bass player coming up?
Um, well, one of my greatest influences is um, James Jamerson. So some of my other influences, of course, is Larry Graham, Louis Johnson, Jocko, um, Paul Chambers, Charles Mingus, and so many other of the greats.
I want to get to some of those the greats you just mentioned a little later on. Let's go back to LA Community College. What do you think is the most beneficial thing that you picked up there at that college?
Well, it was a great continuation of my learning. You know, we had the big bands, we had the Tuesday band, we had the Monday night band. And to participate in those really got my reading together.
Let's talk about the credits a little bit, and let's start there. Lou Rawls was the first big one. How did you get that gig?
Well, I grew up with Ricky Minor, Ricky Minor, Cornelius Mims. We all played in local bands and we all had our garage bands, what we called before the software. We had real garage bands where we got together and rehearsed. Ricky was the leader of his band, Potential. I was the leader of my band, which was Stimulation and then Six. And then Cornelius was the leader of his band called Tease. So we would get together and rehearse, and Ricky started getting opportunities. We would play for big bands and local gigs, and I became his substitute. We would play with bands around town for $10 a night, and Ricky started getting bigger gigs, and then he started sending me on gigs. So Ricky, I went on Lou Rawls first as a substitute for him. And then I believe Ricky got the gig with, it was either Gladys Knight he went to or it was Dreamgirls. And speaking of Dreamgirls, I sat in the pit with Ricky while he was doing it as his understudy. And he never missed a day. So I never did the gig. He never got sick. He never missed a day. But I was there ready. So anyway, Ricky was doing Lou before me, and then he got another job, and then I was the next in line to do it.
I guess I'll ask this question now. I'll reverse these two questions. Give us, if you will, some studio tips for the up-and-comer bass players, which we'll talk about again a little later, but give the up-and-comer bass players a few tips to know about the studio.
Well, the psychology of the studio is to first have the mindset that the more you do it, the more you have to do that particular track, the better it will be. And you have that mindset so that you don't start going downhill when you have to do the retake.
Talk a little bit about the upright bass and still stay with the electric a little bit. Um, this is an odd question, and I know it depends on the song, the session, the moment, so on and so forth. Do you have a preference between the upright? And I'm going to talk about the upright here. Do you have a preference between the upright and the electric? Is there one you prefer a little more so?
Well, they're two different animals. They're two different, totally two different instruments, and they have different approaches. I love the sound on both. Um, I am more of an electric player, but I have embraced the upright and have um, invested time to representing it properly. But as a solo artist, I have made I think, a bigger impact on electric, although I love both of them.
Dale, what do you look for in a drummer? And what do you anchor yourself to with the drummers? Most people say the bass player will anchor themselves to the kick drum. I've had some guys say they anchor themselves to the hi-hat, which was surprising to me and a few other bass players. What do you look for in a drummer, and what do you anchor yourself to while playing with the drummer?
Well, the most consistent time from the drummer is usually in the hi-hat or in the ride cymbal.
What's your least favorite key to play in and why?
Uh, you know, on the bass, all the keys are fine for me. Sometimes, people think about B or why do you play in B? But Stevie Wonder wrote a lot of songs in B. So You Are the Sunshine of My Life starts off in B and then it modulates to C. So I don't really have hang-ups on keys. Try to make it happen. If it's a vocal song, it's about, that sweet spot for the vocalist. And if that happens to be B, then so be it.
Here's one for you. Let's talk gear. What bass are you playing? Strings, amps, so forth.
So I'm playing a Fender Jazz 5 string uh with the preamp built into it. And I was playing for years at Tobias. When I was on tour with Jessica Simpson back in 2006, I visited. Gibson had just bought the Tobias brand, and they were still using the original parts uh, from Mike Tobias. So I had played that for quite a few years. And then I just kind of gravitated back um, to the Fender Jazz, which is classic sound that you can pretty much get any tone you want out of it. Amplifiers, I've been using SWR. Um, I have a SM900 head and the Goliath speaker when I feel like moving that big thing. Uh, but it's a great sound. My acoustic bass is Samuel Shin bass, SB200. Strings I use are SIT, Stay in Tune strings. I've been with them for quite a few years, and their strings do what I need. So that's kind of my basic setup.
Dale, we do a thing on the show we call Word of Advice, where I ask the guests, I ask the artists, they'll leave a word of advice for the up and comer bass players. As I mentioned earlier, guys that's trying to get traction in this game, in this industry. Would you leave them a word of advice?
Absolutely. Do as much studying as you can. Get comfortable reading. Uh, get your repertoire down. learn songs, go to jam sessions, find out what songs people are doing, learn those songs. If you get on a gig and a certain song keeps coming up and you don't know it, then be responsible and learn those tunes. Now, nobody could know every song ever written, but you learn 10, 15 songs from every genre, and you should be covered, comfortable, and able to fit in a lot of situations. And keep practicing, and mix your practice with experience and playing, and that'll help you grow faster by not just practicing but using what you practice on the gigs and getting out there and making it happen. And if this is something you want to do, there's plenty of room out there for you to do it.
Tell me about your nonprofit organization. What's going on over
So,
there?
so I'm a VP of Entrepreneurial Educational Center Inc. And and I teach marketing. My master's degree is in music industry administration, so it's a business degree. So I teach marketing. We have 9-week programs, uh, business programs where the student will write a business plan. In the process of writing that business plan, they learn about the finance with their budget and P&L and first year budget and 3-year spread. We have a management instructor. And I am the marketing instructor. We also have other programs. I started a scuba diving program to be part of the blue economy. So last year we graduated 7 Patti certified scuba divers. I do a yearly gaming summit where we bring professors and people from the industry and talk about how to get jobs in the industry and how to create games and not just play them. We do that once a year. We do a youth environment trip. And everything we do, we offer for free to the community. We're in the 2nd District, County District of Los Angeles, and our new office is in Gardena, California.
Here's one I usually ask the guests at the end of the show. Dale, what do you want your legacy to be said, to be told?
Um, I believe that I want to uh, give away the knowledge that I have so that other people can enjoy this great journey that I've had over 40 years to be able to see the world, make some money, buy houses, have some kids, have a couple cars, and just enjoy life as a musician and an artist. So I'm always willing to uh, give all the information that I have so that other people could experience the same dream that I have lived all of my adult life.
Yeah, let me ask you, did your grandmother get to see the success from that little $75 base she got you?
Absolutely. The
Oh,
first
cool.
time I went to the airport with Rawls, this is when you could go and walk people right up to the gateway. My grandmother and my mother walked me to the gate to work with Lou, and they got a chance to meet Lou Rawls, and they were so happy and excited. So yeah, uh, they were able to see the fruits of their investment in me.
That's awesome. Dale,
Yeah.
let me say thank you so very much for being on the Extraordinary Bass Player Show.
Thank you. It's been a great time. And if you want me to come back and finish the rest of my life story, I will.
Trust me, I know there's more. I've got a lot more on here that we didn't go through. I know you pushed for time. But
Yeah.
again, thank you so much for being on the Extraordinary Bass Player Show. We help us wave goodbye to all the fans?
Go get them.
Thank you, Dale.
All right, thanks.